Hi, friends. So today I want to talk about the mind in mind-body science. And this was a very important piece of the puzzle for me in my recovery. And I really didn't see it until a couple of years into my journey with recovery, with mind-body, with the mind-body approach. And I've shared this before, but my symptoms were a lot better. And then I went to India and visited my guru's ashram where I used to live in the 90s. And when I got there, actually on the way, my symptoms started to come back pretty strongly, and they stayed strong almost the whole time I was there. During that time, I prayed to Amma in my heart to help me because I could feel I was fighting myself to change, and it wasn't working. And this is when Amma gave me the transmission inside of my heart to allow. And of course, I've shared with you that this was the game changer for me. This is what really turned the tide and started me on the path to a deeper recovery, a deeper understanding of where allowing can go. All right. And what this did is it started to show me parts of my mind that were slipping by undetected. And there's a reason why mind-body is called mind-body, and it's because the mind is linked to the body. And what the mind is dictating and seeing and interpreting is going to affect the body, right? And so through the allowing, things started to soften. Things started to open up, and I started to be able to see things more objectively, which means not being so identified with. And it is in this objectifying way of seeing, of looking at thought, that we can start to see what thought is doing. Okay? And we know that in mind-body science, mind is trying to keep us safe. But it does so at a cost, and it does so by perhaps looking for things that are wrong. And I'm being really vulnerable here because this is what was going on with my mind, and it had gotten into a cyclic loop of seeing things that were wrong. Now, there was a good reason for it. There were a lot of difficult things that had happened in my life, and it compiled, and the mind was doing its job, right? And we have to understand that our brain and our nervous system, when we get chronic symptoms, it's only trying to protect us. So if we understand that the mind is also only trying to protect us, it doesn't become this evil enemy, okay? It doesn't become this bad thing. I really want to make this clear because I know that it's very common for people to fight against their mind if their thoughts are not pleasant. So allowing also applies to the mind. And allowing is such a gentle application. It's kind, it's neutral, right? And in this neutrality, we're allowing the mind to do its thing, which is trying to protect us, trying to keep us safe. okay? And in this allowing, it starts to soften and things start to relax a little bit. And in relaxing, we get a little bit more space. And we get this little bit more space so that we can start to see where the mind is coming from. And it's going to be a moment, or lots of moments, when you start to be able to see the mind clearly. And for me, what happened is I started to see that the mind was coming from the past. It was coming from things that had happened to me, maybe, financial difficulty, crisis, or perhaps difficulty with people. And in seeing that the mind was coming from the past, I could see it kind of as just one thing. It kept it very simple, right? And in that moment of seeing where the mind was coming from, it was coming from the past, that I could start to change it in a way that wasn't like fighting against it, but instead being open to this moment in a more embodied, enthusiastic is a word, maybe, in that kind of hope, in that kind of moment of like opening up to possibility, okay? And because the mind doesn't know what's going to happen or where we're going. So it only is operating in what it knows. It's only operating from the past. And when I could see my mind coming from the past over and over and over and over again, I could make a choice that I don't want to live in the past anymore. And that was like a lightning bolt. I don't want to live in the past anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. And, it took me a little bit to see this. But that's exactly what it was doing. The mind was holding on to things that it knew. And unfortunately, it wasn't all that great. But once I started to make that decision, I'm not going to live in the past anymore. I wasn't feeding into the mind's narrative. I wasn't fighting it. I wasn't dismissing it. I was allowing it, but I was making another choice. And that was, I was going to live my life. Not trying to get rid of my symptoms, not worrying about what was next, not giving in any energy to the narrative that was happening in the mind. I'm not going to live in the past anymore. And it was very powerful for me. And right away, the symptoms started to fade. Right away. And it was like I found that piece to the puzzle that I couldn't see before. When we're really present, the mind is quiet. Unless we're, cooking a meal or something like that. But if we really look at our mind and see that it's coming from the past, it's not dwelling on the past, but it's coming from the past. And that's why things loop. You notice? Thoughts loop. Because it's just repeating a story, a tape. Because that's what it knows. It's in the past. So mind-body science, the mind has a huge role to play in mind-body science. And to get healthy and to get the system to not needing to be on this high alert kind of protective mode. That's going to take some looking at the mind and to see what it's doing and what it's saying. Because if you're in protective mode, if the nervous system is in protective mode, it's going to dictate really how open you are to this moment and really the enjoyment of it, the enthusiasm of it, the appreciation of it. This might sound easy, but it isn't. And it's not like it's a battle or anything, but it requires a real deep looking. And sometimes you might have to get out your pen and paper and write stuff down, just so you can start to kind of see the patterns and really be honest about how they're making you feel. And where are they coming from? Are they coming from the past? Do they serve you now? A lot of people don't want to let go of the past. They need to hold on to the past because it defines them. It's who they are. They live for what happened to them. And they use where they came from to justify their behaviors now. But if you want symptom recovery and you want to be free, which is really what we're looking at, right? The symptoms are just a messenger, which I'm very grateful for. But if you really want to be free, then we have to see where the mind is coming from. And then choose that we don't want to come from there anymore. And watch what happens. Watch and see how your life starts to shift. I think you're going to really enjoy it. I think you're going to really see how powerful you are when you choose that. And your nervous system won't need to protect you anymore like that. You won't need the symptoms anymore. All right, I hope this was helpful. Okay? I'd love to hear from you. All right, be well. Bye-bye.